We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi and Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 19b. Rav Huna Breder of Yoshua in the previous Talmud said that the Kohanim are shluchim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They aren't our shluchim, and he proves it as follows: Mi'iko midi da'anon lo matzinan lemebad. Is there such a thing where we can't do it personally? Ushluchei didon matzu avdi, and we're able to appoint a shliach to do it on our behalf? Obviously, if we can't do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim are not our shluchim. They must be the shluchim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the point of bringing Rav Huna Breder of Yoshua's statement is to say it's a contradiction to our Mishnah, in which they administer the oath to the Kohen Gadol and say that you're our shliach. And the Gemara says, Hachi ka'amri le. No, here's really what they are saying to him when they are administering the oath to the Kohen Gadol. Mashbiyan anu alecha, we're administering to you an oath, al datenu, on our das, the al das bezin, and on the das bezin, meaning on our understanding, and on the understanding of bezin. Not that you're the shluchim, not that you are shluchim, but that this oath is according to our understanding. Rashi over here says, Hachi ka'amri le, haidu ka'amri le atashluchenu. When they say to him, you're our shliach, lav bi'avoda ka'amri le. They don't mean to say that you're our shliach in terms of the avoda that you do in the Beis Hamikdash. Elaleinian kabbalah shvua. They're talking about the acceptance of the oath. Kolomar, as if to say, lo lefi machshava shebelibcha im basal aharim bekabbalas hashvua anu mashbiyan oscha. Maybe you'll try to have some other intention and try to avoid taking a real oath. Lefi datenu v'das bezin. Your oath is according to the way we understand the words we're stating. Don't try to have some other intention to try to get around the shvua. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Hu poresh uvocha v'hein parshin uvochin v'chulu. The Mishnah said, after they administer the oath to the Kohen Gadol, he separated and he cries, and they cry as well. And the Gemara explains, Hu poresh uvocha, he cries, shechashtu tzeduki, because they suspected him of being a tzeduki. V'hein parshin uvochin, and they also cried. Amar Rav Yoshua ben Levi, because Rav Yoshua ben Levi says, Kol hachoshed b'ksherim, anybody who suspects somebody who's actually kosher, who's actually innocent, loka begufo, he's going to get struck in his body. So therefore they're suspecting him of being a tzeduki, but maybe he's not a tzeduki. The Gemara says, what do you have to do this whole shavua for? What are you trying to prevent him from doing? The Gemara explains, he shouldn't set it up outside and then enter, because that's what the tzedukin used to do. And Rashi over here explains, we're talking about the ketoris, where you would take the fistfuls and you would put it on the shovel. They used to put the ketoris on fire, taking this fistful and put it on the fire, and he would do it, or the tzedukim would do it, they would do it in the hechel, meaning outside of the Kodesh Kadashim. That's where the tzedukim would put the ketoris on the fire, and then they would bring it into the Kodesh Kadashim, because they understood the pasuk to mean, don't come into the Kodesh Kadashim unless you have the cloud of smoke, because it says that I'm only going to appear, the Shekhinah is only going to appear in this cloud. The beginning of the pasuk says, don't come into the holy place. The mashmos is, with the cloud of smoke of the ketoris, he should come in, and then I will appear. So that's what they used to do. They used to fix it. They used to set it up outside of the Kodesh Kadashim in the Heichel, and then they would enter, and that was improper. So we're trying to make sure that he doesn't do it the way that Tzedukim did it. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Maisa b'tzeduku echad shehiskin mibachutz v'hichnes. There was once a story with a certain Tzeduki. Again, he set it up on the outside, and then he brought it inside. B'yitziyaso haya sameach simcha gedola. When he left the Kodesh Kadashim, he was very happy. Pagabo aviv, he met up with his father. Amar lo, his father said to him, B'ni, my son, afal pishet tzedukin anu, even though we are tzedukim, mesiyarin anu min ha-perushim, we are afraid of the perushim. Amar lo, so he said back to his father, Kol yomai hayisim mitzdaral ha-mikra zeh. All the days of my life I was bothered by this pasuk. Ki ba'anan eira ala kaporis. It says you're going to be seen by the kaporis with the cloud of smoke. Amarti, and I said to myself, Masa yavo liyadi v'akaimenu. When will I have the opportunity to fulfill this pasuk properly? So in other words, I always wanted to do the avod in the way that tzedukim hold to do it. Achshav shabol liyadi, and now that I have the opportunity, lo akaimenu, I shouldn't fulfill it. So what are you yelling at me for? This was good that I did it the proper way. Amru, they said about this tzeduki, lo hayu yamim muatin at shemes. It was not very long until this tzeduki died. V'hutal bi'ashba, he was cast in the garbage. V'hayu toloin yotzin mechotmo, and the worms, they were coming out of his nose. Rashi over here says, mechotmo shu rishon leivarim lichones lebayis lafishu bolet lefanav. The idea over here is it's a punishment because the nose is the first thing that enters into the area of the Beis Hamikdash. Kedamar navi Meseches Shvuos hanichnas lebeis hamenuga derech achorav ve'afilu nichnas kulo chutz mechot motar alma haba derech achorav nichnas chot moachron. Rashi just bring a proof. You see, let's say somebody walks into a place backwards, then the chot of the nose is going to enter last. So the point is, this was a midah keneged midah, entering improperly into the Beis Hamikdash, so the nose enters first, and that's why it's toloi and yotzin mechotmo. Some have a different version of the story. Be it Siyas or Nigaf, he actually was immediately upon exiting the Beis Hamikdash, he was struck. The Tani Rabbi Chia, as Rabbi Chia taught, Kimin Kol Nishma Be'azara, there was like a sound, a voice in the Azara. Sheba Malach v'chavtu alpanav, there was an angel that came and struck him in the face. V'nichnasu echav ha'kohanim, and his brethren the Kohanim came in. Umatzo kekaf regel egel ben ksefav, they found like the footprint of a calf between his shoulders. Shenamar, like the pasuk says, v'ragleim regel yeshara, v'chaf ragleim kekaf regel egel. It's talking here about the feet of the malachim, and it says that they have one straight foot or a straight foot, and the sole of the feet is like the sole of the foot of a calf, and that's what it means to say he was struck by an angel. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Amar of Zechariah ben Kavutal v'chulu. Mishnah said that Rav Zechariah ben Kavutal said sometimes he would read to the Kohen Gadol on the night of Yom Kippur from Sefer Daniel. The Gemara says, Masni le Rav Chanan bar Rava l'chia bar Rav kamei de Rav. Rav Chanan bar Rava taught L'chia bar Rav in front of Rav. Amar Rav Zechariah ben Kafutal. He pronounced it with a fei instead of with a vase. He said Zechariah ben Kafutal. Umachve le Rav biyodei Kafutal. And Rav made a motion with his hands that it should be with a vase and not with a fei. Gemara says, "V'neima le meimar." Why didn't you just tell him explicitly? Why is he hinting with his hands? Gemara explains, "Kriya Shema Havakari." At that time, Rav was reading Kriya Shema. He couldn't speak, so he just motioned. He just hinted to this change. Gemara says, "V'chi agavna mishari." But is it even permitted while you're reciting Kriya Shema to make hints, to send hints to people? V'amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marasa. But Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marasa said, "Hakorei Shema." When someone is reading Shema, lo yirmos be'einav, he shouldn't hint with his eyes. V'lo yikrutz b'sifsosav, he shouldn't hint with his lips. V'lo yoreh be'etzba'osav, he shouldn't hint with his fingers. In other words, you shouldn't communicate at all. Doesn't matter whether you speak or you hint. So how is Rav allowed to do this? V'tainyan, we learned in a brayso. Rabbi Eliezer Chasma Omer. Rabbi Eliezer Chasma says, "Hakorei Shema umerames be'einov umekaretz b'sifsosav umara be'etzba'o." Somebody who's reading Shema, and again he hints with his eyes or his lips or with his fingers. All of Hakosav Omer, about such a person, the pasuk says, "V'lo osi karasa Yaakov," and you Yaakov did not call out to me, meaning it's as if you didn't read Kriya Shema at all. So the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. Habe parak rishon. In one case, we're talking about the first parak of Kriya Shema. There, you're not supposed to interrupt. You have to have kavana, so you shouldn't even hint. Habe parak sheni. But when you're in the second parak of Kriya Shema, then already it's permitted to hint. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, V'dibarta bam, it says you should speak in them. The simple explanation is, when you learn Torah, you should speak. And the Gemara learns, Bam v'lo b'tfila. When you learn Torah, you should speak it out loud. But when you're davening, when you're doing L'shmona Esrei, let's say, so then you should do it quietly. It should be balachash. You shouldn't speak it out loud. V'dibarta bam, again, another drasha, it says you should speak in them in Divrei Torah. Bam yesh lach rishus l'daber. You have permission to speak Divrei Torah. V'lo b'dvar macherim, but you shouldn't speak idle chatter. Rabbi Acha Omer, Rabbi Acha says, V'dibarta bam, you should speak in Divrei Torah. Aseo san keva, in other words, you should make it permanent, fixed. V'al ta'asem arai, don't make it as if when you speak Divrei Torah, it just happenstance. It's not something that's a set thing that you do. Amar Rava, and Rava says, Hasach sichas chulin. If somebody speaks idle chatter over be'aseh, he transgresses a positive commandment. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, V'dibarta bam, you speak in them, bam v'lo b'dvar macherim. You speak Divrei Torah, not idle chatter. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, over belav, he even transgresses a negative commandment. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Kol advarim yigayim lo yuchal ish l'daber. All of these wearisome matters, a person has no permission to speak. So you see, it's even a negative, it's even a lo saseh, in terms of speaking idle chatter. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Bikesh lehisnamnim. Let's say the Kohen Gadol is falling asleep on the night of Yom Kippur. Pirchei kahuna, the young men of the kahuna, makin lefanav be'etz batzirda. They would snap in front of him with their middle finger to their thumb, the way you snap. V'yomrim lo, and they would say to Mishe Kohen Gadol, amod v'hafeg achas al rispa. Go and stand on the cold floor, and that'll wake you up. Umasikin oso at sheyagia zman hashchita. And they would deal with him until the time of the shchita. In other words, they would keep him awake until the time of the shchita of the carbon tamid in the morning. And the Gemara says, "My tzirda." What is the reference of the word tzirda? Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, "Tsarsa deda." It's the rival of this other finger. Maihi, what finger is it the rival of? Godel, it refers to the thumb. In other words, the middle finger is the rival of the thumb. Rashi over here says, Tsarsa deda, Tsarsa shel zu, etzpatate tsara lazu. One finger is the rival of the other. Umaihi zu godel be'etzpa hasmucha legodel hayemechabro la'godel bechazaka v'shomto makal kapo v'nishma kol. Rashi explains the idea is you take the middle finger against the thumb, and then when you snap it, it hits the palm of the hand, and it creates a loud noise. And the Gemara says, Machvi Rav Huna demonstrated this. V'yazal kola bekule bei Rav. The sound of his snap went into the entire base medrash of Rav. He showed how a snap can be a loud sound, and again, that's the way they would wake up the Kohen Gadol. The Gemara continues quoting the Mishnah of Yomrim lo ishe Kohen Gadol hafeg achas al ritzba v'chulu. They told the Kohen Gadol to go onto the cold floor. Amar Rav Yitzchak says, Al Chados. They asked him to do something that was a chiddush, something new, to demonstrate it for them. And the Gemara says, Mahi, what is this a reference to? Amri le achvi keda. They told the Kohen Gadol, show us how to bow in the form of keda. This was a difficult way of bowing, and that kind of exercise would keep him awake. Rashi over here says, achvi keda, no, it's godlov ba'aretz. He would put his thumbs into the earth. V'shoche v'noshek es haritzba. He would bow down and kiss the floor. V'yomed, and then stand up. Kach mefurish b'Meseches Sukkah. That's what is explained in Meseches Sukkah. The Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Masikin oso, ad sheyagias man shchita, they would keep him busy until the time of the shchita. The Gemara says, Tana was taught, Lo hayu masikin oso lo benevel v'lo bechinor elo bepeh. They didn't keep him awake with musical instruments, rather they kept him awake with their mouth, meaning they would sing in front of him. Uma hayu omrin, and what do they say? Im Hashem lo yivne bayis, if Hashem would not build the Beis HaMikdash, Rashi says, Im Hashem lo yivne bayis, kolomar hi zoyer ba'avodascha. What they were saying to him was, be careful in your avoda. Shetahei l'shem shamayim, that it should be for the sake of heaven. Shetahei l'ratzon, that it should be accepted. Shemeina ritzuya ein torchacho lo l'klum. Because if it's not accepted, then all of this bother is for nothing. And that's the idea over here. Im Hashem lo yivne bayis, if Hashem doesn't build the Beis HaMikdash, doesn't guard over it, shav amolo, bone of bow, then all of the work that the builders do is for nothing. And the Gemara continues, Miyakire Yerushalayim, the prominent people of Yerushalayim, Lo hayu yishenin kol halayla, they wouldn't sleep the whole night of Yom Kippur, Kedei sheyishma Kohen Gadol kol havara, so the Kohen Gadol would hear the sounds of their learning of Torah, V'lo teishina chotfaso, and then he wouldn't be overtaken by sleep. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, Abishol Amar, Abishol says, Af begvulin hayuosim kain zechel hamikdash. Even outside the Beis HaMikdash, outside of Yerushalayim, they would do this as a remembrance of the Beis HaMikdash. Elo shayu chotin, except that caused sin. The men and the women would be together, and that would cause a certain kind of sin. Rashi says, Elo shayu chotin mesachkin anoshim v'noshim yachad. The men and the women would be together. Uvoin la'avera, would come to avera. So that's why they stopped this practice. And the Gemara continues, Amar Abaye v'Tamer of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Abaye says, and some people say, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Tirgama Nahardoi. You should interpret this as a reference to Nahardoi. Rashi says, Tirgama lahai begvulim heicha yuchot. And where did the sin take place outside of Yerushalayim? But Nahardoi, we're talking about in Nahardoi, that's where the sin took place. The Amar le Eliyahu Rav Yehuda Achva de Rav Salach Hasida, because Eliyahu said to Rav Yehuda, the brother of Rav Salach Hasida, and this is talking about Eliyahu Hanavi, and he says to Rav Yehuda, Amrisu, people wonder, Amai loasi Mashiach, why doesn't Mashiach come? Vaha inna Yoma de Kippur house. So Eliyahu Hanavi explains, today is Yom Kippur. V'yevel kama besulta b'Nahardoi, and look, many of the besulos in Nahardoi, they've had relations today, so it's these kind of sins that are preventing the coming of Mashiach. So Amar Lei, so Rav Yehuda said to Eliyahu Hanavi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'amar, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say about this? Amar Lei, he said to him, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chaf Amar Aleph.